I see it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go then, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. So again, yeah, my name is Michael Starling. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Dunwoody. Appreciate Stephanie asking me to be here today. So I'm going to talk about the commercial real estate market in Dunwoody and why it's important to us, and sort of some of the changes that we've seen from COVID. City of Dunwoody is about 50,000 people, but we have a significantly larger commercial market than most cities that size. We have over 10 million square feet of Class A office space, about 4.5 million square feet of retail. Our 9th hotel is under construction, should be completed next June. And about 50% of our real estate, our family residential, is multifamily. As you can see from the map, the vast majority of our geography is single family, and that's in the sort of the yellow. But the commercial is mostly concentrated in the perimeter center area. Dunwoody was Metro Atlanta's first ed city. It developed when I-285 was built, and we're sort of a unique combination of an office retail market with single family residential. Again, this is where the vast majority of our commercial office and retail space is located. All of our hotels are here in Perimeter Center. It's about 800 acres. So it's a very small part of the city, but it has obviously a huge impact on our economy. You know, we usually look at 4 things when we're looking at sort of our competitive advantage and our future prosperity. Our regional development patterns, you know, where employment is headed, where are people moving, large infrastructure projects, our existing built environment. You know, what's here now is what's going to be here in the future. And that impacts what kind of companies are looking here and people who want to live here. Consumer preferences and business location preferences, obviously, the kinds of places that consumers want, the way they want to shop, where they want to live, and then businesses where they actually want to locate has a huge impact on our economy. The first two, we really can't impact. The second two, consumer preferences and business location, we do have the opportunity to sort of shift our focus and shift our marketing and shift our development patterns to meet those two. So those are the 2 things I want to talk about today. Consumer preferences, a lot of groups look at, you know, where people want to live and how they want to shop. The National Association of Realtors, the Urban Land Institute, look at this on a yearly or bi-yearly basis, and we have a pretty good idea of what those trends are. Walkability is something that just about every generation sort of cuts across the millennials, Gen X, and boomers, something that's important to them. Access to restaurants, especially restaurants and shopping close to homes, is been gaining on people's preferences for years. Single family detached is still preferred by far. It's what most people want. Not everybody can afford single family homes, but that's what they look for. Although, you know, alternative housing, especially because the growth of single person households is growing so quickly, that alternative is also growing quickly. People want access not only to transit, but also highways. We're finding that urban and suburban locations are both growing, which is good for us. And that over the next 10 years, sort of 2 very different life stages are growing at the same time. Those people in family, mostly millennials who are now entering, family and childbearing years, and retirement life stages. Our 2 biggest generations, the boomers, are retiring, and millennials are coming into that family life stage. So that's what's impacting that. Businesses, you know, they are looking for obviously access to workforce. They open an office or any location so they can hire people to work there. They also look at walkability, mixed use environments, sense of place, and transportation options lead their requirements. And that has led to, at least over the past 10 years, a real growth in urban areas. This has been occurring all over the country, but we have some examples in Atlanta that most people are familiar with. NCR moved from Gwinnett County to Midtown, Pandora, Starbucks, Norfolk Southern. They all chose Midtown or downtown locations for their operations. It's because those businesses were searching out those places that were walkable, that were transit oriented, and that met the preferences of most consumers. The last 3 or 4 years, we've seen sort of a shift back to what normally has occurred, and that is sort of suburban areas gaining more population growth. That doesn't mean that urban areas are not growing. It's just that it is much more balanced now, and the suburbs are growing more quickly. One of the things we've seen that sort of has happened as a competitiveness, suburbs are starting to change. I mentioned that Atlanta was the first ed city for Atlanta, the Atlanta region, and that was back in the 70s when we really were just focused around a mall, perimeter mall, and some office. Well, since that time, suburbs have changed, and you know that there's a trend happening when people fall all over themselves to sort of coin that term. The original term is Ed City. Urban Burb, Lee Gallagher wrote a great book, sort of The End of Suburbs, talking about the suburbs that are occurring now are much more urban. They're focused much more on urban amenities. And one of the reasons why is because we are competing with urban areas that have been doing so well the past 10 or 15 years. And that is true for Dunwoody and for the perimeter center area. The past 10 years, really since the end of the Great Recession, we've seen significant new development, especially around the Dunwoody MARTA station. This is the State Farm regional hub. The third building will be coming online very soon. I don't think there's a lot of employees there right now, but once we get through COVID, there'll be close to 7,000 people working here. Insight Global, that's the building over to your right, just was completed in March. So we're seeing a lot of sort of densification within our market as well. And what we're really focused on is how do we leverage sort of the best of both worlds? How can we focus on sort of our residential areas, leveraging those sort of neighborhoods, the tranquil quality of those neighborhoods. At the same time, how can we develop sort of an urban, mixed use, vibrant, walkable place? Because we think if you put the two of those things together, we're going to compete very well with urban areas as well as suburban areas. So, Dunwoody's focus over the past 10 years really has been building out our walkability, building parks and green space, trying to become certainly not Midtown, but something that's much more urban than what we've had in the past. That brings us to COVID. Obviously, everybody's sort of what they thought they were going to do starting in January and February changed with COVID. And so we have been looking at sort of how does this impact our economic development strategy moving forward. Obviously, right now, people are working remotely. We think that is going to impact work for a long time. We think it is proven that this can work. Employees have gotten much more comfortable with it. Employees have sort of been forced, even those like I never teleworked. We've been forced to sort of learn how. So there's certainly going to be a school of thought that believes we're going to need a lot less office space in the future. There's another thought that, in fact, we're going to need maybe even more office space because when people do come back to the office, they're going to be required to have a lot more space. Most of the big office developments occurring before COVID, the density of employees was significantly higher than the past 15, 20 years. And we think that's going to reverse. So there could be those offices that do open, even if they have a large teleworking workforce, they're going to need more space to account for those people who are in the office. So it's really, there's this push and pull between those two. None of us really know how that's going to work out in the end. We think that Dunwoody and the perimeter market provides the flexibility for companies. It allows a lot more space, and it allows these property owners and these companies sort of room to spread out, a lot of parking and a lot of green space that gives them, we think, the flexibility to deal with COVID in a different way where maybe you couldn't in a more urban environment. So I know we're out of time. I saw Stephanie pop back up. So I'll end it there if we do have time for questions. If not, I'll be on the networking throughout the rest of the meeting, and hopefully we can touch base.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. And you can also direct message Michael under direct messages in chat if you would like to have some one-on-one conversations or ask questions. And I appreciate you take the time to be with us today. And the sessions are recorded, so you'll be seeing those broadcast out very soon.
All right.
All right, Michael, you just press leave in the top right-hand corner.
Will do. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Michael. Bye-bye.
Bye.